All right. Hello, everyone. To give you some context for this video, Paul and I were chatting about Mac and Nix. And Paul, I think, knew that I was using Nix on my Mac and on my development servers, etc. And I was suggesting, hey, Paul, I could help you getting more familiar with it and set up your dot files using Nix. And Paul was interested in that, and I thought it would be useful for others to learn about this as well. So here we went and actually record our session and are aiming to put it up on YouTube. So you can follow along and hopefully learn something from this. So yeah, Paul, let's dig into it. Where should we start? Do you have any prior exposure to Nix?
That's true. So my context on Nix is I know it's something with like package management. I know I see it in the context of Replit a lot.
Yeah,
but
I give Replit a lot of credit for betting so heavily on Nix, and I think that's I'm super excited about that. And in fact, when I tried Replit in the past, I was running into some limitations, and I tried it now again. I could work around most of these limitations by simply knowing my way around Nix. So I think it's great that they're advocates for it.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I see reproducible builds. Like, I guess. I mean, maybe you can give me the TLDR. Like,
yeah.
Why should I use Nix?
So it's actually one. I'm not an authority for Nix at all. I'm like half a year into using it myself, like bumping into all sorts of rough edges myself, and just with a few scars of like using Nix, I think I've developed a bit of an intuition for it. It's not super accessible yet, but I hope this video here is hoped to contribute to making it more accessible. So cool. What is Nix? There's actually the thing you see here in the URL says Nix OS, but there's actually Nix is a few different things. So there is Nix, kind of like a technology ecosystem. There is Nix, the language, which is sort of like a bit of a functional, like if you imagine kind of like a weird hybrid of like a functional language and a configuration language, and then with a bit confusing syntax. That's what Nix is. It's like a language. It works. You get used to it, but it's like not my favorite, but it gets the job done. And like over time, you figure it out. So again, Nix, technology ecosystem, Nix, the language. Then there's Nix, a package management system. Imagine like NPM, but for all sorts of installable things. Like that's actually the direct equivalent thing to Homebrew, I think, which you're using right now. And which for my newest Mac, I haven't even installed Homebrew. I just went with Nix in the first place. And we can like slowly roll you over to this. And then on top of all of this, or using all of this, there is Nix OS, which is its own Linux distro, I think, which basically uses Nix from the ground up. That's also really cool. And so you're seeing here this Nix OS rebuild switch thing. That's a command you're using a lot when you're using Nix OS. However, for the purpose of this session, I don't think we'll touch Nix OS at all. We could do that another time when you're like, let's say you have I'm using Nix OS on a remote development server. I'm using Nix OS on my Raspberry Pi for my smart home system. That's sort of where I'm using Nix OS. But for the purpose of this, I don't think we're gonna touch Nix OS at all. We just touch Nix on your machine. And you think about it basically like, instead of installing Homebrew, or additionally to installing Homebrew, we now install Nix on Mac or Darwin. And then we basically add something to our path in your terminal. And now you have a whole bunch of like binary things available in a different way to install things like Node.js, Python, whatever you need. And that's actually one of the great benefits of Nix, that similar to how you can install NPM dependencies globally and locally, And
Right.
kind of like the best practice is always to install them locally. You can do the same thing with Nix actually, where for a given project, maybe you need like Golang in one project and Rust in another one. And maybe you need a different version of Go in another project. This way you don't need to install it all globally, but you can install it locally to your project. And that's really, really neat when you need it. So my suggestion would be, let's install Nix on your machine that we can install packages. And then we'll start taking a look at your dotfiles and how we can Nixify them. And there's a whole bunch of like, in the Nix ecosystem, there's a whole bunch of like packages, similar to how in JavaScript and Node, there's like Prettier and ESLint, etc. Like there's also a little bit of different things in the Nix ecosystem that's easy to get confused by, but hopefully I'll be able to help you build some intuition for that. So I guess the first thing I would do is Google for Nix Mac or let's see where we end up here. Great. So here you see it says Nix the package manager, not Nix the Linux distribution. So this is what we're going to install here. This would be equivalent to brew install, whatever that does. So just run that. And this might actually multi-user mode. I'm not sure whether I don't think I have done the multi-user mode. I think
it seems like it's the default.
Well, I've done whatever's the default. So I don't think I went off the default path. So I would suggest you do that.
Yep. Okay. So
all right.
Multi-user Nix.
So
blah, blah, blah. Make sure it doesn't show you where create the system user.
What this does, by the way, so this might be a little bit more invasive than what Homebrew does. So it depends on how you see it. Homebrew adds a whole bunch of like root level directories, installs some stuff. Nix, however, doesn't invade your system too much on like these existing /user, etc. /var directories, but it actually creates a separate volume on like at least on Mac here. I don't know how it is on other systems. I've just used it on Mac and NixOS directly, but that at least contains it nicely in your system. So it will probably create a new volume on your Mac. But I didn't run into any problems with that yet.
So here, do I need a more detailed list? You can tell me what to do.
If you want to. I mean, we can see it, but I think ultimately we just want to.
Blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, cool. So sure. So backup, so bash and stuff. I'm currently using Z.
You should be. I'm using Fish, but I think you should be. Nix sort of is orthogonal to that.
That's scary. All right, so it's not sudo. All right, I trust. What's this? All right, I assume just click yes, but yay, thanks.
That's cute. I don't think I've seen this wizard before. Maybe that's a recent thing. All right, the moment has come.
So stores this data in the root directory. Okay, so this is where you're saying there's a new volume.
Yep.
So when you talk about packages in Nix, you're talking about things like Node, like Postgres and stuff like that too?
Yeah, exactly. So ultimately, and this is really like the power of Nix, that you have like a giant ecosystem, pretty much anything that you could want, you typically have on Nix. So while this is running, you can maybe you move it to the right and we Google for something. Like look for search and like Google for search and Nix. I don't remember the exact URL. Yeah, exactly. So this is sort of like your NPM, but for Nix, the important URL to remember, maybe to bookmark. Exactly. So now you already got it. So you see here, one thing to notice is like typically maybe that's one of the shortcomings of Nix, that it's not super straightforward to install a specific subversion of something. But this is where you typically, for Node, you see like all of these different versions. So you can install a specific version like this. But yeah, so you see here all the different versions. Notice there's like channels under the search input. You see these channels.
You mean this here?
This is sort of like sliding over time. 2111 seems, I think this is 20
November,
like from last year, November. But yeah, that's, everything is very much up to date. And so what's actually great, if you go to in here on that page, I'll actually take the liberty of like drawing on your screen. If you go to source here, then like notice this takes you to NixOS Nix PKGs. This is kind of like a giant monorepo for all, that's basically the database behind that search thing, and where you install things off. And that has like everything in it basically. And like they get an incredible volume of like PRs every time. But whatever you're going to look into, whenever you want to figure out like how is something installed, etc., you all got it in there. So you can think about this like a bit like Docker files for any kind of thing. And this typically, this is like where at the very, very foundation, what Nix is Nix is a build system at the core. And then you have just like a package manager on top, etc. And this is the way how you do like these little build things. And maybe this is actually one of the things that you might already know about Nix, that Nix has like every build artifact has sort of like these hashes, and then that makes it reusable for other things.
Cool.
And yeah, this is where you see like these little recipes here, these Nix files.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can take a look in that into
cool.
that.
And so like, are there UI apps like Spotify and VS Code?
So that's additionally to the thing that you're installing right now. There's also I think something called Nix Darwin. I think you can Google for that. I actually don't use that yet myself. But that would take it further. I think there's like this Homebrew casks thing.
Right.
So this is even a step further. I don't use this yet, but I'm curious to give it a try at some point. But I basically use Nix for anything like terminal level. I still like download my DMGs for Slack or whatever. Okay, I think you gotta acknowledge this here on the right.
And then open new terminal.
Okay, so perfect. So we got that. And so this is kind of like your hello world, I think, or no.
It told me to run this command here.
Okay. Yeah. I think this basically just checks whether it worked. I don't think this has a particular function. So yeah. So what you could try to do, I think we're all set. So one thing to notice is like this slash, if you scroll up again, yeah, there you go. So you see here this like /nix/store.
Right.
This is what I meant with like that separate partition on your partition volume, whatever, on your Mac. You can actually open it in the Finder and test it out, or via the terminal. So there you go. So you have the store thing. In the store thing, if you go to a list view, this is kind of like a ginormous, this is like the root basically where all the Nix things live. Right. And it's always like that. It's the file name or folder name starts with a hash and then has like at the end sort of like a human readable thing. And so this is where everything gets installed. And if you have like 5 different node versions, they all coexist here. And then the way how I actually going to use something is that Nix just creates a symbolic link for, and then basically puts that into your path. So Nix really is like this giant, like mountain of things. And then to actually make it usable to you, it just adds it into your path. And that's very simple and very, very elegant. And this is how you can use different things in different projects at the same time.
Cool.
Yeah. So, and what's also great about this is like these things here, you can typically just download them from where they're pre-built for your system. And that makes it very efficient. So if you like, that might be also for another time, but you can use Nix also in your CI/CD, where it really, it's like similar to Turbo repo, which got recently acquired by Vercel, but for everything, but maybe a little bit more of an acquired taste in terms of usage.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's try to give it a first try. There's a CLI or a bin called nix-shell. Just try that, whether it's here. Okay, great. So now we want to run nix-shell -p. And now like a package name that you might not have on your Mac yet. Maybe you want to use bottom. That's a really cool. That's really, yeah. That's like top.
Should I run this?
Yeah, it's the opposite. Yeah, exactly. Try that.
Opposite of top. Okay, cool.
So now we are like, what happened now is like, this is just to play around. I use Nix shell very rarely, but this is kind of like a very uncomplicated way of like trying something out. So this now pulled something down. And now you have a separate shell session where bottom is available. Now you can write bottom. I think it's called BTM.
Okay.
There you go. So now see, you've like installed something, which really like installing really just put something in your Nix store and linked it up. So if you quit here and like echo path.
Right.
So somewhere in there, you should basically have the thing for bottom.
I see. So
I rarely look at the path to like see what exactly is in there, but that's basically the principle behind it. So you want to go to the store and now maybe ls like everything that has bottom in it. There you go. So, and it's basically just link this up. Anyway, you don't need to know this in order to use it, but it's a very simple principle that's behind it. So, and now you can basically simply quit the shell again here. And when you're outside, you don't have bottom anymore available. But yeah, you get the idea. Yeah. So you now have successfully Nix installed. So now we can go a step further. So there is like, you don't want to run. So you don't want to always run Nix shell when you want to run something. So typically what I do is there's like a set of programs that I want to have system wide that I just, no matter where, like is useful to me, like Vim or these sort of things. But then more specific things, even Node.js versions, etc., I don't install globally, but I install on a project level. And there's like nice tools that make that really seamless. So there's a tool called direnv. Maybe you're aware of that. Maybe you're already using it.
No, I use NVM or something like that.
Right. Well, the idea behind
it, okay, got it.
The idea behind it is like that you basically have a file that contains, for example, environment variables, and that when you, with a terminal, go into this directory, it loads up all of these environment variables. And this works really well together with Nix, actually, where you can basically, it doesn't just load environment variables, but it also loads the corresponding Nix part. Anyway, we can look into this in a sec, but let's first take a look at the global Nix packages that you want to install. And so there's two ways to go about this. Either there's a way similar to brew install. It's kind of like where you imperatively once decide, oh, I want to install that thing, and then it's there. And then there's a more principled approach, which I just started doing like many months into Nix, but we can now decide whether you want to do this, do it like right from the beginning or not. Which is basically to do it, to have like rather a place where you write everything down, and then you basically bootstrap from that.
Mm.
But just so you're aware of like how you can do something imperatively, this is where you have a command called nix-env, and there -i, and there you can say bottom now, for example, and that's it. And so this basically installs it globally. Behind the scenes, still the same things happen, but here I think Nix probably already wired itself up with your terminal. Here you basically have like bottom now available, and if you open a new terminal session somewhere, you should have that available. So this like nix-env is basically the equivalent as brew install.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Cool. It's probably this Nix profile or something.
Exactly. So this Nix profile thing, that's exactly that. So we could, for example, like, do you have a, exactly. And see that thing in there was not, it was just a link.
Yep. Cool. Makes sense.
Exactly. Great. So we can just for the fun, we can remove something from brew and install it via Nix again, just to like, and at that point we could already stop the call. And have something that's faster and more reliable than brew, but then we can also take it further.
Yeah, let me see. I'm trying to think what I have in, I haven't done this in a while, but bot. I'm trying to remember. All right. I'm trying to remember what things I've installed via brew. Sure, like
Dust or Redis or whatever. Yeah.
All right, let's do Dust then.
And a good practice is also to, before you install something.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Very invasive.
How do I, because it's at, oh, can I just stop this? All right, whatever. All right, man. All
right. Check out the search, the Nix search page before installing it. It's like, see, Dust, I remember Dust, that this was like a special, like typically like whatever you want to install is just there. But I remember Dust was like was like an extra thing, but I think you want the DU Dust thing.
Yeah. I don't want this. All right. Okay, so I should install this globally.
Yeah, you can do that just to, so we have a second.
Okay, but we already did with bottom. But you're going to show me the new way to do it.
The blast way.
Right.
All right, perfect. So I'm not sure whether we get this right the first try, but let's see. So you can also, if you open my dotfiles, I can show you a little bit of like what we're aiming for there. So it's /Schickling.
Spell your name wrong. I do it right.
You did it. Wow, on the spot, it's just right. There you go.
All right.
So maybe you want to press dot to, no, like go back.
Okay.
Press dot, since we're in the dot files, right? Yeah, so here, there's a whole bunch of chunk in there that's mostly legacy-ish. So the interesting parts are if you go to Nix PKGs. So here, let's take a look at the flake Nix. So there's, you're gonna be facing like two new things now, and they're like arguably that all like just that there's so many things that makes Nix kind of like unapproachable, etc. So, but bear with me. So you will now need to briefly understand what is like a so-called Nix flake. And then we need to understand what a thing is called the Home Manager.
Okay.
There's arguably, you could probably, if you have like all the knowledge now of like how Nix works, you could probably condense this into fewer things and it's just all Nix. But here's like a bunch of like community projects. Home Manager is a community project. Nix Flakes is kind of like a newer thing that basically reimagines some ways of like how Nix work. Anyway, so this is Nix Flakes are a great way. It's kind of like similar to how we have package JSON and then also a yarn log file. Nix Flakes kind of give you a similar thing like that. Since I've mentioned before that you can't specifically address a version, with Nix Flakes, you can sort of do that. So, oh yeah, one thing that you might want to do is like if you go to your here VS Code extensions in the browser and just install the Nix one.
Okay.
Yeah, try that. This way we just get a little bit of syntax highlighting. There we go. Okay, so what's happening here? There would probably be simpler ways to do this, but I wanted to do it like whatever I researched was sort of like the proper way, and I tried to imitate this here. And now you need to like learn my best or worst practices, whatever, time will tell. So Home Manager is basically a thing, if I can describe it properly, it's like, it's a common use case for it is like managing dotfiles, etc. And I think I wouldn't be exactly, I couldn't quite tell you where Home Manager stops and where Nix starts, etc. But okay. I'm using it for like the sake of like dotfiles management, etc. And when I set up a new computer, so for anything kind of globally installed, I'm using Home Manager to manage my home. And for anything else that's more on a project level, I don't use Home Manager. Okay. So, and in order to basically tell Home Manager what to do, this is where we're using this approach with Nix Flakes. There would be also a way doing it without Nix Flakes, but Nix Flakes is kind of like the proper way to do it. So, and Nix Flakes is really like one way to define sort of like tell your build system, like everything in Nix is a build system. And that's basically just a way how you can tell Nix, hey, build that thing. And building is really just taking inputs, producing an output, putting that in your Nix store. And that's what it is. And so there's like a whole bunch of things you can do with it. And if we look into my Nix Flake, then you basically see here inputs and outputs on a top level. And so I'm using actually this the same Nix, or broadly the same Nix config for here my MacBook, for a development server, and also for Gitpod. So that's really cool. Since like that was the point where I really went all in on this, because I wanted to have the same experience on my various machines. And so I think you would have probably not been able to write this from scratch, but now as you read it, you probably get an idea of like how things fit together. And then additionally with Google, you get to figure things out. And also just to build a bit more intuition for Nix Flakes, you can also, you would also typically use a Nix Flake per project to install sort of like the project specific things. So you would think about a Flake Nix file, like a package JSON. Right. Here, this happens to be like the system level one, but you'd also have like Flake Nix files on a per project, or I have. So for example, if you want to look into the one of my projects where I'm using this, you can look it up, content layer. Nope, I was like top level content layer -f.
Sorry?
Just Google for content layer, GitHub, and GitHub. Yeah, perfect. And so here you'll see a Flake Nix file. Oh, it was just under your mouse. There you go. And so here I don't do anything spectacular. I just use, since I'm using Nix everywhere, I'm just telling this here, I want to use node 16. But in other projects, I do more fancy things. So I might, like in some projects, I literally build some things from like Go source files or from Rust source files, and it's kind of like all works. Anyway, so what we want to do on your machine basically is have a similar thing like this flake Nix file for your system that points to, if you go to the, to this one. And so you see here has like these various imports. We just start with one. And there you can go into them. So it's like here in Home Manager. I've just split this up a bit. So you see here common, these are all of my commonly installed things. You see here, I have my, you saw the DU dust. So I have my fish installed and through that, my Git. So, and the idea is really like, I've pulled this all into Nix. So I don't keep this is why I said like all the other files in this repo are sort of legacy because they're all generated from Nix. So I didn't quite like this at the beginning, but over time, I kind of like, it grew on me. That's not the way how I do it. And that's generally also the Nix way, that you, for pretty much everything, you define a Nix and then generate the other things out of it, and you don't even see the other things anymore.
I see. So like on your computer, if you do you like have a git config file? Like, is this symlinked somewhere?
So this would be now through like home, like there's basically a Nix thing for a Nix package for Git, or for this in particular. And this is where Home Manager comes in, where it just like makes it a bit nicer. And so that would basically be responsible of like generating the right Git config file for you. But if I want to change something, I go into this file, and then I just regenerate, like I do the Nix build thing, and then everything just works.
Got it. Okay. Got it. So there's like a Git Nix package that generates the Git config.
Exactly. Yep.
Got it. Okay.
And so this is then all like wired up through this Home Manager thing.
Okay.
So there is like a little bit like, this is probably a lot now, like with like various pieces that you all learn at the same time how they fit together. But I think like once you've done it like the second and third time, sort of like you build a bit more of like a routine for this. And like if you stay in this file for a sec, it's really common that within the Nix ecosystem that you basically have sort of like wrappers around like all the packages. And so for example, for their env, they basically build like little DSLs around the packages that do the right thing for you already. So for example, on top here, line 5, you see like something for how you can use dir env and how that works with fish, etc. So and this is where you saw like this extra DSL for the Git config. So yeah, that's kind of like doing it the fish way. Sorry, the Nix way. So as a next step, we would basically want to install. We want to do two things. We want to install Home Manager on your machine. Okay. And we want to enable Nix flakes for you. We'd start with the Nix flakes, I think. Nix flakes are still considered experimental, but I think it's pretty clear that's the way to go. And it's just, we just need to, I think, opt into it. And then we install Home Manager.
Okay, so
you'd go to the flakes tab and now follow these.
So installing Nix flakes.
So I'm not on NixOS, but here, So you would do this.
So just run this, right?
Yep.
Oh, okay. It's Sorry, global.
Yeah, this is like one of the last global things you need to do. Afterwards, you typically don't do anything global anymore. So yeah, you added this one. And notice this, you can also see in my dot files. I have checked this in as well. It's not in the Nix pkgs, but in the Nix folder. So yeah.
So just try copy and paste this.
You can do that. Yep.
I assume it's also on the, oh, it's the same line.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So, and I think, yeah, now it's basically just by the existence of that, you've kind of like opted into, oh yeah, I think you didn't do the folder.
Yeah.
Classic. All right, great. So now you've basically opted into the flake feature, but nothing more than that is necessary. And now I would let's see just to create the flake file in the right directory. Like just try to imitate it from my dot files.
All right.
So the flake. So basically in home and then Nix pkgs and there create a flake.nix file.
So for my home directory, you make a Nix package.
Yep, pkgs. And there create a file flake.nix. And so you can copy everything for now, and then we just delete a lot.
All right, let's do that.
All right. So that you can keep. I quickly explain the inputs part. This is basically, you could keep it variable of like, do you want to use, like which channel you want to use? And ultimately it just points to the to this Nix pkg's GitHub repo anyway. But here you can basically say from which it should install things from. All right, you're already starting to imitate this here.
Right. What? Oh, my home directory. I guess is yours different? Users Paul Shen. Username.
The system. I don't think you have Arch 64, do you?
How do I find this value?
It's a good question. Let's Google. Yeah, this seems right. I think, yeah, you try that. I think it's just like this XA. I think it's just, yeah, I think this is like the X84 or 86 thing.
Oh, this thing?
Yeah, try that. I mean, we're gonna see anyway. So I'd say like replace the Arch 64 with that. Let's see, reasonable guess. And now like let's delete all the imports except the first ones.
Except the first one.
Yeah, and you don't need to structure it as I did, but you can. But you just like need to create the corresponding files properly.
Sorry.
Like this would be a relative import, so you'd need either you create the same folder structure as I did, or you simplify it. You can like delete the two hierarchies and just have it like this.
Okay.
And then yeah, so keep it like this.
Okay.
And so the other important part is this MVP 2021. This needs to be corresponding with your host name.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be, but I think that's kind of like the practice as far as I know.
All right.
So just like write host name here, or if you know it.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think you need the .lan.
Does it need to match this? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, let's see like that. Okay, this looks good. Now create the home manager Nix file and copy paste the contents from mine. Okay. So now a little important thing. If you were now to try to apply this file, and I'll tell you in a second how, it would say like, hey, I don't know of anything. And this is because Nix flakes are Git aware. So I think if you...
Oh, got it.
I think you would basically need to Git added if you are in a... it's actually a good question where you would have that in a... I mean, all this content for me is like in a dotfiles repo. Let me actually take a quick look of like how I've set this up locally. 1 second.
I see. I can stick this into my dotfiles.
Yeah, it doesn't, it's not important where this is, I think. Okay. So I have this all in a folder called .config, but I think you could have it somewhere else.
So let me move this into here.
Actually, it's important in that regard. I think it is important that it's in .config / nix pkgs and or / nix. But I happen to have like my .config folder version controlled. So I think I now remember. I think this is the way how it needs to be. So
got it.
Maybe we can reconcile this later, and you don't need to push this yet. I think it just needs. Not sure whether you can use Nix flakes without Git. Yeah.
Okay, so
like basically create a home.config.
Okay. Yep.
I think you should already have this directory.
Yep, I do.
And just run git init in there.
Oh, okay. So I have to put everything.
Yeah, you would move it there. This Nix pkgs folder.
I see. So is this is your GitHub repo? Is this your .config?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But this is also something I want to clean up more and more. There's like a whole bunch of legacy stuff in there. You wouldn't need to. Yeah, you would move this one. Yeah, exactly. Okay, and the Nix folder as well. Yep.
Okay, right. The Nix folder was already there. So I guess I should
get an init in here.
All right.
Okay, great. So perfect. You don't need to commit it. I think adding is all that's needed.
Oh, okay.
All right. So now I'll tell you the next magic spell, which is one sec. Need to look this up myself. I have. Okay, so I'll send it to you in Discord. There you go.
Okay.
So yeah, well, you could also look it up in the files, but yeah, so you basically need to go to the .config nix pkgs folder, and then you want to run home manager switch flake
This thing.
Hold on. So the cryptic thing basically needs to do get rid of everything up until the hash, and there you write your host name.
Get rid of everything up to the hash,
and there you write your host name.
Sorry, after the hash, right?
Yep.
Like this.
Okay, give that a try. So
right.
See, this is the thing that needs to correspond after the hash with your thing. This will probably not work yet, but let's see and give it a try.
All right, Paul's iMac. All right.
Okay, that's this is I think the last thing we need to install globally.
Okay.
Basically, we need to give the home manager install instructions a look.
Sort of independently of their system. So which one should I look at?
I remember this bootstrapping part being annoying. Let me consult my notes. Oh boy. We're trying to speed run through something that has taken me days.
Sure you
yeah.
Maybe
try the following.
Okay.
I remember this having been tricky. Let's just see, and we'll end up at the right place, hopefully. Ultimately, we basically just want to bootstrap.
This right here.
Yeah, we want to bootstrap our way to a place from which we can basically take over with Nix flakes. And basically, we just need to bootstrap to that place.
So should I run one of these first?
If you haven't done so before, I mean, this is basically like a sudo apt-get update,
right?
Equivalent. You would want to do the second one since you're, I think, on that channel.
Okay, but I might be up to date already.
Yeah, so
just run it.
You gotta try, and now the other one. Great UX.
Yeah. And then what you sent me.
Okay. All right.
All right.
So maybe this works for you like first try. I had some troubles at that point, but let's see. And like all of the stuff we're suffering through right now, like I've forgotten about this day after, and I'll never have to. This is like a one-off thing,
right?
And this will last you as long as you've like you wipe your entire system. Yep. And for the moment, when you need to do this more often, this is what I remember. When you need to do this more often, I need to do it more often on like a remote dev server. This is where NixOS is interesting because there you don't need to do all of this crap, but you can start off with like a Nix flake and so on. Okay, so hold on. What does this complain about?
Packages to home configuration.
Okay, I think we did it this time in the other order than I did, since we created like this flake already, and then installed Home Manager. Whereas like here, I did it the other way around. Let's see. This is also like new for me, but let me read through it. My suggestion would be to unstage the flake and try to run this again.
Stage the flake. How do you unstage again? Get remove cached.
Just maybe copy it. Is it gone?
No, it's still there.
Okay, great. And did it? I'll also get rid of the flake log file. This is
it's not staged. Yeah. Oh, just delete it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So now try to run the other command again. Yeah. Maybe move it into a different name.
Move it into a different name?
Like just rename it to like flake. Like just that it doesn't recognize the file. Just move the flake Nix file into flake backup or whatever. Yeah.
It looks like it didn't find the file. Oh.
Okay, great. So now you're at a point. I think this is a known issue right now. The way how I worked around this is by running it like this.
All right.
It's like maze running. But it's gonna be worth it ultimately. It's just this part is very painful. Okay. And all of this is just that we have the home manager bin, and then we let it take over. And the good thing is, like, all of this is what it's doing is just putting stuff in Nix store. So this is not messing with the rest of your system. So the blast radius is good. Okay. Cool. So now we also there's we can do this now. I've done this also, but like what I've done later is basically put, I also have, like, in your case, ZSH, in my case, fish. I would have home manager and Nix also generate these files. So there's like also like we're basically bootstrapping our way into that node.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the home manager, you can edit. Okay, so Nix pkg's home. So the home Nix file, this is the way how you used Nix, how you used home manager before Nix flakes. So this is kind of like the older way. I think you can just get rid of this file, to be honest, since we're now going to use Nix flakes. You could also use this, but I wanted to go all in on flakes because I use flakes in all of my projects anyway. So this is kind of, that's actually consolidating things more, like that you use the same workflows across everything Nix. Okay, now we would backup, like restore our backup of the flake. Git added. And now try to run the command before with the home manager switch thing. The middle one. Almost there. Almost there.
So
one more. Oh, there you go. Okay. So this is hopefully this works. And at that point, we should basically be at a point where we have sort of like a happy iteration loop. At this point, you should be able, basically iteration loop will be you editing your Nix file, rerunning this, and so on. Okay, great. This looks promising. So maybe you want to have two windows, one where you can run it and one where you can run the edit the files. So open the yeah, exactly. So this is the flake Nix file, great. And now we want to, here we're basically done. We would rather now work in this in the home manager Nix file, which can have any name and you can structure it however you want. Can take some inspiration from my dotfiles, but do it however you want. So for now, we would just stuff anything in there, and then you can later restructure it as you want. Order, to my knowledge, is not important, so you can move this around. So yeah, let's do this. So let's just move in a few that you're interested in. The only pitfall that you might want to watch out for is the ones that you've manually installed globally before using nix-env. They might be conflicting here. So for the bottom and the, you're already mastering the syntax. And yeah, exactly. So let's give this a try. Yeah, well, now you're provoking it. But yeah, try to save that and run the other one again.
All right, but do I have to uninstall the?
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do next.
Okay. Sorry, in this editor, I don't know if I've. Let's try it out. So what command do I run here?
Just try to do the same one again on the left. Yep.
Oh, okay. So switch.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. So now it's like, this is basically your almost, yeah, it's literally a build with linking.
I see.
And so now we need to uninstall these. I think it's like nix-env -- uninstall.
Okay. So Q, like I can just price.
Oh yeah, Q is probably also the same thing.
Well, Q is just to query it, but
no, yeah, try to -- uninstall.
Uninstall. Okay, uninstall. So
there's like a whole bunch. Yeah, there you go. And the same for du dust. And now try to run the other one. Oh, it seems like du dust we didn't even install. All right, and now try to run bottom, btm.
Oh.
There we go. So this is their first package, or du dust, or like simply dust.
Cool.
There you go. And you can say which dust, just to make sure that we. Yep, perfect. So now try to install another one just to get in the hang of the feedback loop.
Yeah. So what's another package that looks interesting? JQ. Do I have JQ?
Every system should have JQ.
Yeah, JQ. So here.
So I've created myself a shortcut or an alias where I just say HM. That basically reloads this. So if you go to my .files,
yeah,
and VS Code, yeah, and like look for fish. The fish nix.
Fish.
You cannot. No, like in the Nix packages. Yep. I look for HM.
Yep.
There you go. So I basically can anywhere just write HM and it does the thing.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah, but now you basically got everything you need from there. Like now we're through the worst. Now it's like all good, and you can probably take this much further than I did. But I'm pretty happy with what I got so far. And if you the great benefit of this is now you can basically actually take this and also apply it on another system. And like given you just gotta go over the bootstrapping hump, and that's probably the by far the most painful on Mac. On Linux it's way easier and so on. But yeah,
I see. Cool. Yeah, so it's kind of like this part. Yeah, I don't have a great dotfile setup, but I had like this. When I have a new computer, I run my like bootstrap script, which does a brew install. That's the equivalent here. But then
exactly. So now you can basically step by step uninstall from brew and move over here. Yeah, I think you should be going. That should have taken you through the worst of getting going. And then the next part could basically be what you've now done, like all the global stuff. And then where it gets also really interesting is having a flake Nix file for project, where you basically do the same thing. Like here that you have programs that's like home manager specific. If you go to the flake Nix file, that is more general. And but you'll find resources on the internet where you have like how you write flakes for a project.
Cool.
And from there, you can basically benefit from the same ecosystem.
Cool. Is that like, is it trivial or to set up? Like, what if I just go to like if I make a test directory here?
Yeah.
Like, can I make a node? Can I run node version 10 here really quick, or is that?
Yeah. Well, it's going to take us 3 minutes or so, but yeah, create a flake Nix.
Like a flake Nix like that.
Yeah. And just, I mean, go to this content layer repo.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever we had it. Yep, try that. Copy all of that.
Node 16 is fine.
All right.
All right, let's just try node 10 just to
look for it in the wild search whether this exists. All right, there we go. All right, save that file.
Sure.
So I typically use Nix via dir-env, but now we would use it separately. So I think, so go out in terminal. Try to run Nix, hold on. Nix flake update in 3 words.
Yes.
Update. Yeah. So try that. Okay. So it seems if you're not in a Git context, then you don't need to do the Git add thing. So maybe I lied before with the .conf
the config. Yeah.
But it's good. You want to like get it in Git anyway. So, but that will be a little bit of fiddling to like you want to basically separate out like your old stuff from the new stuff.
Right.
But I haven't fully done that myself yet either.
Yeah, my config, like the nvim, my nvim stuff is symlinked, for example. But yeah.
Right. Next flag load. So typically, as said, I'm using it with
dir-env, right?
With dir-env. So now the next question is basically try to run Nix develop. Yeah.
Okay. It's because I chose a bad one. So now if I try, maybe I'll just try like node 12 and then if I try,
and so all the Nix flake update, etc., with dir-env, it's basically all just happens automatically.
Got it. Cool.
Okay, so now you're in a separate shell, but now you can try to run node.
Sweet. Okay.
There we go. So basically, that you like now in a different shell, etc. This is like you're gonna figure. You seem to have different preferences than me or others in terms of dir-env or using other things, but you have now the building blocks that you can now bring together to hone in on your workflow here.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah.
All right. I guess Nix lesson 1 complete.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna play around with this and see how it goes. Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. So
awesome. Yeah, I think it's if anything, the principles behind Nix are amazing. The user experience so far has some potential to be smoothed out, but I think the principles are great. And for now, using Nix as is also totally worth it for my purposes. But I think the principles might even outlast it.
Yeah.
And now you can, by the way, all of the things that you've seen with like Nix flakes, etc. I think you can take this to Replit and apply it there as well.
Yeah, but in this hash is this build is probably for like my system on Darwin, right?
But the hash will decide on it. There won't be if it's for Windows or whatever, the hash will be different.
Right. So got it. But I assume like during the build step, it was building in the context of Darwin.
Yeah, exactly. But it basically tries to, based on the inputs, tries to basically see, I think the order is roughly like this, like, hey, do I have it already in my local Nix store? If no, it tries to like go to to like a global Nix registry, tries to pull it down, and if not, then it basically looks up like, how do I build this, and you would build it on your local machine.
Right. I could take this to Replit, but like I see.
Not this one, because this is like home manager specific, but the flake you could take.
Right. Okay. Like this one here.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Awesome.
Right.
Yeah, I'm excited that we got so far. Unfortunately, the ratio of like actually smooth sailing and like working around some issues hasn't been as great, but at least I could take you through this like in an hour now, what took me considerably longer, and hopefully this is useful to others as well. But excited that you got things going, and hopefully this will take you a lot further.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah.
Awesome. Then we'll wrap up the recording at this point.